They told you Britain ruled the waves. What they didn't tell you was what it cost. This is not just a story of kings and crowns, but of betrayal, revolution, war, and global domination. From savage tribal wars to a global empire on which the sun never set, Britain's history is a storm of ambition and blood. And yet, behind the glory lies a tale far more complex. A story of stolen lands, broken oaths, and power built on the backs of others. Today, we unravel that history in full. Unfiltered, unvarnished, and unlike anything you learned in school. The story begins in the mists of prehistory, when the land that would become Britain was a patchwork of warring tribes. No Stonehenge, no Shakespeare, no London, just Celtic warriors, ancient magic, and primal gods. It was the Roman legions who first brought Britain into the light of written history. In 43 AD, Emperor Claudius launched the invasion that would turn the island into the empire's outer frontier. With swords and roads, baths, and bureaucracy, Rome laid the first bricks in the foundation of modern Britain, but not without resistance. Figures like Boudica, the warrior queen of the Iceni, rose in defiance, torching Roman settlements and nearly forcing the legions to retreat. But she failed, and with her fall, Britannia remained Roman for nearly 400 years. When Rome collapsed, chaos returned. Britain was left exposed, a tempting prize for invaders. The Anglo-Saxons came next, warriors from modern-day Germany and Denmark. They carved up the island into small kingdoms like Wessex, Mercia, and Northumbria. These were violent, fractured times. Christianity spread, kings rose and fell by the sword, and the island's identity began to form. But unity remained a dream. Then came the Vikings. They arrived not as armies but as raiders, burning, looting, killing. But soon they settled. They founded cities like York, engaged in trade, and even became kings. The clash between the Saxons and Vikings lasted generations until one man finally began to tip the scales: Alfred the Great. He was the first to dream of a united England. He defended Wessex, built fortresses, reformed the army, and kindled a flame of English identity. His descendants would carry that dream forward, but the road was far from smooth. In 1062, England faced its greatest upheaval yet. William, Duke of Normandy, crossed the Channel with an army and a claim. At the Battle of Hastings, King Harold fell, and with him, Anglo-Saxon England. The Normans brought castles, feudalism, and a new aristocracy. English as a language nearly died. The ruling class spoke French. Peasants became serfs. But this brutal fusion of cultures laid the groundwork for something powerful. An England ruled by law, written in stone and defined by legacy. As the centuries turned, power began to shift. The Magna Carta of 1215 was not just a piece of parchment. It was a crack in the armor of monarchy. Nobles forced King John to sign it, limiting the crown's power and sowing the seeds of constitutional government. Yet the kings still clung to absolute rule. Battles with France dragged on for decades. The 100 Years' War left the country weary and poor, even as it produced legends like the Black Prince and national heroes like Henry Thorve. But the war ended in retreat, not glory. Then came the Civil War. The Wars of the Roses ripped the kingdom apart. Versus Lancaster. Red rose versus white. Decades of bloodshed, treachery, and shifting alliances. In the end, it was Henry Tudor, Henry VII, who rose victorious. He founded the Tudor dynasty, and with it, a new era of centralized power. His son, Henry VIII, would change Britain forever. Driven by lust, pride, and dynastic obsession, Henry broke with the Catholic Church and created the Church of England. Monasteries were destroyed, treasures looted, and the religious fabric of Britain was torn apart. His daughter, Elizabeth III, the Virgin Queen, would inherit a divided kingdom, but she would make it an empire. Under Elizabeth, Britain defeated the Spanish Armada, fostered the arts, and began to look outward. Explorers sailed west. Colonies were founded, and the seeds of the British Empire were sown. But for every ship that carried goods and riches, another carried chains. As the crown expanded its reach, Ireland was crushed under its boot. The Scottish Highlands burned. Native peoples in the Americas were slaughtered or enslaved. This was an empire not as enlightenment, but as exploitation. And yet, it thrived. The 17th century saw Britain tear itself apart once again. King versus Parliament. Charles V claimed divine right. Parliament demanded limits. War erupted. The king lost and lost his head. For the first time, Britain became a republic under Oliver Cromwell, but it was a republic soaked in blood and ruled by fear. Within a generation, the monarchy returned, but not as it once was. The Glorious Revolution of 1688 ensured that no British king would ever rule without Parliament again. From here, a new power was rising, not kings, but merchants. The East India Company was not just a business, it was a shadow government. With private armies, it conquered lands from India to Southeast Asia, amassing obscene wealth. Britain became the workshop of the world, on the backs of colonized peoples. The 18th century brought the Enlightenment, science, reason, philosophy, but also slavery, theft, and imperial arrogance. The same century that gave us Newton and Locke also gave us the transatlantic slave trade. Millions were taken. Millions died. And Britain grew rich. Then came the Revolution. In America, British subjects rejected their king and birthed a new republic. Britain lost its greatest colony, but did not stop. The empire simply turned its gaze elsewhere, to India, to Africa, to the Pacific. By the 19th century, Britain ruled a quarter of the world's land and a fifth of its people. London became the heart of global finance. Victoria reigned over a vast empire. Railways, telegraphs, and factories surged forward. But so did poverty, child labor, and colonial brutality. Famines in India, genocide in Tasmania, massacres in Africa, all hidden behind the myth of civilization. At home, the people began to demand more. The Industrial Revolution created cities and slums, wealth and squalor. The working class rose. Movements for labor rights, women's votes, and Irish independence shook the kingdom. And then, war. The 20th century shattered the illusion of imperial permanence. World War I drained the empire of blood and treasure. World War II nearly broke it. London was bombed, colonies rebelled, and the world order shifted. The United States and the Soviet Union rose. Britain faded. India gained independence in 1947. Africa followed. One by one, the colonies fell away. The empire dissolved, leaving behind wounds that still bleed today. And yet, Britain endures. No longer an empire, but a nation still haunted by its imperial past. Its monarchy remains more symbol than a sovereign. Its parliament, a relic of ancient struggle. And its people, diverse, defiant, and still writing their story. The tale of Britain is not a straight line. It is a spiral of conquest and collapse, glory and guilt, power and protest. It is the story of how a cold, rainy island forged an empire, changed the world, and was forever changed by it. What remains is not just a legacy of kings and colonies, but a lesson. That history, when stripped of myth, reveals not just what we were, but who we are.